we talk about it all the time, and we will say it over and over again throughout this interview, is that it's a process to becoming a solid married couple. It's not something, it's not for the faint of heart. It is not for, if you don't want to do the work, then you should not get married, because it takes time. And when you get married at 19 and 22, like you and I did, Ruben, becoming a man is a journey. It's not something that you can't read a book, or you can't, just because you have a good father doesn't mean you're going to be a great husband or a great man. It's a process. It's something that, it's called the hero's journey. You got to take the hero's journey to become the man that you are. But you said something that was just spot on when you talked about raising your kids, especially your sons, how you don't have to know everything to be a good father. You just gotta want to. You gotta want to be there. You gotta want to be present. You gotta want to be a better man. You gotta work towards that. And I think that's where a lot of these young men get disillusioned, because they don't know what to do, because maybe dad wasn't there, or maybe they got the wrong influences around them. But it's really easy if you just start out with, hey, I love this little guy here, this little girl, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they have what they need, but I'm also going to be present. I think being present costs you nothing. It doesn't take a lot of experience. It doesn't take a lot of know-how. Just be there, spend time with them, and spend time when they're little, play with them, and all of this. Just need to remember dad being there. Yeah. That makes a lot of difference in a young man's life. And now that we both have grown men as children, I see the fruit of that now in my sons, the fact that I spent time with them. And I see it in your sons, I could tell that you spend a lot of time with your son growing up. I can tell that. And so that's part of being a good father.
Yeah.
What'd you say about motherhood?
Being present, being a nurturer. And I think a big part of motherhood, especially in the married relationship, is allowing the father to be the father, and knowing when to pull back, knowing when to be silent, knowing when to allow him to, really just letting you take the lead. There are times, especially if you have sons, at an early age, it's best to turn those sons over to the father, to let the father start that manhood training. Not that we're not important, not that we're not nurturers, and not that we're not mom, but there's a time when he falls, he skins his knee. At some point, I don't need to run to him every time. At some point, dad needs to say, "Are you all right, son? Okay, stand up, dust yourself off. You're gonna be okay." Instead of, "Oh, my baby, give me." Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right with that. I mean, I learned that at around the age of 8, I started noticing that he needed more of his dad than me. Yeah. I nurtured them a lot. I give them a lot of love, make them the meals. I'm hungry, but I noticed that they will only come to me when they were hungry, because they didn't need me anymore. I mean, not that much like they needed his dad, especially because they were all boys.
Yeah. And now even more, now that they're grown.
They're grown. I mean, I love them a lot, but I let Ruben handle the situations.
Yes.
Ruth, how did you manage that? Because I want women to hear you right now, because you're a mother of sons.
So it was really, really hard for me with my first one. Once I learned, I knew how to listen to the voice of God with the second one when he was ready. And I had to let go. It hurt me. Yes, it did hurt me a lot. But I knew that I had to do it.
As we were discussing it, I understood. So motherly love is always trying to keep them, keep them close and stuff like that. But there's a time when they need to mature enough to where, okay, you know what? I need to let them go. What does that mean? Let them go. Not only me handling more of the responsibility towards them, but also spiritually and in their own life. Like, don't baby them anymore. Don't nurture them, that much anymore, because now they're growing.
And I understand that they're gonna make mistakes.
Yes.
And I think that was one of the things that I didn't want to let them go, because I didn't want to felt like hurt or with worry of the uncertainty, what he was gonna do, what's gonna happen. So I think was one of the things was that. So, but I had to let it go, and I learned that they were gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfect right there, because that's where a lot of couples make the mistake. Right there, Ruth, is that the mom begins to fight the father for supremacy of the children, especially the boys, and then there's a tussle between them, power struggle, and then you end up raising weak men. That is essentially what is wrong with the world right now. There's too many weak men in the world that were raised with a mother's going to protect. She's going to mother hen. That's what she's supposed to do. That's why you need two. That's why you need the father to come and take the child and say, okay, mom, you got to get off the teat. It's time to man train him, because the world doesn't care about your baby. The world doesn't care. The world is going to eat him alive. If you don't let dad do what dad needs to do, the world is going to eat that man alive. And the world is full of men who are now expecting the whole world to take care of them, make them feel secure, and it's unfair. And the world is eating these men up alive. We see it every day.
And that's what I want to know, Ruth. Although you definitely heard the voice of God, because God dealt with me like that. I know. Several times. So I definitely understand that. But how did you open your hands, release your children, let them go, let Ruben really lead, take the sons and really do the man training? How did you do that without turning on Ruben and becoming resentful of him? We see that a lot when we're coaching, where the wife is like, especially if the sons are preferring to be around dad, which they should, the wife becomes very resentful. She becomes very bitter, very angry, and almost feeling like she's useless. And she goes through all of these different tactics to try to get guilt the child back. How did you resist the urge to turn on Ruben and to let him do what he needed to do? How did you do that?
Yeah, I think one of the things is that I notice myself, I catch myself not trying to help them with their needs, mainly needs, and I couldn't help them. And they will come and ask me, and I couldn't answer them. I couldn't help them. So I had to turn to Ruben and say, I'm not a man. I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
So I had to let go.
And I think that's where, like you're saying, that's where now, a lot of men are with that mentality, right? Because it's an advice, which is not a bad advice. I'm not saying that, but it's an advice coming from the opposite sex. Right. So yes, she's your mother and loves you and she's going to protect you. Yeah. But sometimes that's not what's needed. It's more of a man-to-man conversation to say, look, son, this is this and that. Sometimes it's a little stronger. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 5 decibels over the normal, type of conversation. But definitely is you as a father is even the correction, the way you correct them, the way you discipline them, the way you guide them, lecture them. Oh my God, my kids are fed up from me lecturing them. But guess what? I tell them, I'm a father, dude. I'm going to lecture all my life. Right. As long as I have kids, I'm going to lecture all the time. So it's like,
same. Same, Ruben.
I was like, oh man, my daughter a couple of weeks ago, we had a come to Jesus meeting, and she couldn't handle the fact that daddy was upset and I was just blah, 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 blah. I get it. I was like, no, you don't get it. You think you do, but you don't.